Today, we're diving into Han Kang's incredible and, let's be honest, deeply unsettling novel, The Vegetarian. This is the story of a woman named Yeong-hye. She's seemingly ordinary, but her life just completely unravels after one single decision, a decision that comes from a terrifying dream. And believe me, this one choice doesn't just shatter her world, it shatters the lives of everyone around her. So the story kicks off through the eyes of her husband. In this opening line, it tells you everything you need to know about him. He saw his wife, Yeong-hye, as completely unremarkable. To him, she was just there, passive, uninteresting, a woman who existed to fit neatly into his life, not to disrupt it in any way. You see, his whole view of their marriage is built on this idea. He actually admits that he chose her precisely because she was unremarkable. He figured she wouldn't challenge him, she wouldn't have big demands, and she definitely wouldn't mess up his carefully planned, kind of boring middle course through life. In his mind, she was basically a blank slate. And this is where you really see the massive gap at the heart of their marriage. On the left, you have his perception, this passive, run-of-the-mill woman. But on the right, that's the reality that is about to just explode into view. A woman who is capable of absolute, shocking defiance. A woman on a journey towards something totally unimaginable. Okay, so the first part of the novel is told entirely from the husband's perspective. He's the one who witnesses his wife begin this transformation that he just cannot understand or control. And it all kicks off with a single dream. This is Yeong's simple, almost chilling explanation for everything. It's the first thing she says to her husband when he finds her standing silently in front of the fridge in the dead of night, and it's pretty much the only reason she ever gives for the complete and total upheaval of her life. And the consequences of this dream are immediate and really unsettling. She just stops sleeping. He finds her literally emptying their fridge of all meat, fish, and eggs. She won't cook, she won't eat, and she even recoils from his touch, telling him his body smells of meat, a smell that now just completely repulses her. Now, this wasn't just some casual nightmare. The dream she had was visceral, it was violent, and absolutely terrifying. She describes this dark forest, a barn filled with hanging, dripping meat, and this awful feeling of being trapped with no way out, covered in blood. I mean, this is the deep psychological trauma that's sparking her rebellion. But here's the crucial part. He doesn't see trauma. He doesn't see a cry for help. All he sees is sheer obstinacy. He's just completely incapable of understanding the horror she's feeling. To him, this is all just a selfish act of defiance against their nice, normal life. And this inability to understand, well, it escalates into pure violence. The whole family stages an intervention, totally horrified by how much weight she's lost. Her very authoritarian father just screams at her, then he hits her across the face, and then he tries to physically force a piece of pork into her mouth. They are literally trying to force normalcy back into her. Her reaction to this is a complete and total break. In that moment of absolute violation, Yeong-hye grabs a fruit knife and slits her own wrist. The act is so shocking, so final. It ends the confrontation, it shatters her family, and it lands her in a hospital. This is the point of no return. There's no going back from here. And now, the narrative completely shifts gears. We move to her brother-in-law, a video artist. Where her husband saw defiance, this artist, well, he sees something else entirely, a canvas for his own obsessive vision. So this guy, he's been haunted by this artistic image for over a year, this vision of bodies covered in brilliantly painted flowers having sex. And when he sees the now frail and withdrawing Yeong-hye, he starts to believe that she is the perfect person, the perfect vessel to bring this vision to life. He becomes totally fixated on this faint birthmark on her body, but he doesn't see it as human. He sees it as vegetal, like part of a plant, you see? He doesn't see a person who is suffering. He sees a passive object for his art. He's completely objectifying her trauma for his own purposes. And his so-called art project quickly spirals into exploitation. He convinces her to model for him, and she just compliantly allows him to paint these elaborate flowers all over her naked body. But his creative desire turns into a total transgression, culminating in him persuading her to have sex with him on camera, all to complete his artistic vision. This whole transgressive act comes to a sudden, crashing halt when his own wife, who is Yeong-hye's sister, In-hye, walks in and discovers them. The artistic fantasy is just shattered by the brutal reality of what's happening, leading to absolutely devastating consequences for everyone. And that brings us to the final section of the book, told from the perspective of Yeong-hye, the sister who is left to deal with all the fallout. She's the one who has to carry the burden of care and the absolutely crushing weight of what's happened. So after the discovery, the artist husband, he just disappears. He's gone. Yeong-hye, who is now completely unresponsive and withdrawn, is committed to a psychiatric hospital. And In-hye is left all alone to try and navigate the wreckage, caring for a sister who has retreated so far into her own world that she can't be reached. And it's in the hospital that Yeong-hye reveals her final transformation. She believes she isn't human anymore, not an animal. She calmly explains to her sister that all she needs to live now is sunlight. Her retreat from the human world is now officially complete. She fully embraces this belief that she is becoming a tree. And her behavior starts to reflect this terrifying new reality. She's found in the woods outside the hospital trying to do a handstand. Why? Well, she explains that she's a tree, and that roots are sprouting from her hands down into the earth. She thinks leaves are growing from her body, and that flowers will eventually bloom from between her legs. You know, you can really look at her entire journey as a series of profound rejections. First, she rejects meat. Then, after the violence, she rejects her family. Then she rejects sex, and eventually all food. And finally, in this last tragic stage, she rejects her own humanity, trying to find some kind of peace in the botanical world. The novel builds to one last act of violence. Because she's refusing all food, doctors have to restrain her and force a feeding tube down her nose. The scene is this horrific echo of her father's abuse, showing how the world, even with so-called medical intentions, just continues to assault her body and deny her will. And we are left with her sister, In-hye, in an ambulance, watching Yeong-hye being transferred to yet another hospital. In-hye just stares out the window at the vibrant green trees, and her gaze is described as fierce, as if she is finally, truly questioning the nature of sanity, of violence, and what exactly it was her sister was trying so desperately to escape. And this leaves us with the novel's central, unanswerable question, right? Is Yeong-hye's journey a tragic story of mental illness, or is it something else entirely? A radical, desperate, and maybe the only possible escape from a world of human cruelty by shedding her own humanity itself.